Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, my friends. If you're new here, I am Lance. If you're returning, welcome back, you guys. Today, we're checking out a video by Underworld Life. Now, if you know anything about me, I was a big Mob Wives fan. So this video is what happened to famous gangsters' wives. So I'm really intrigued by this. And there was, I think it was a thumbnail of Victoria Gotti and part of the thumbnail, so I'm kind of curious if they talk about her. But yeah, I was a big Mob Wives fan, and let me know in the comment if you watch Mob Wives. I was a big Drita and Big Ange fan, so shout out, rest in peace, Big Ange. And so yeah, let's get right into this. I'll leave the Underworld Life link down below so you can check out their channel. And if you like this video, like and subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. Why is the coffee making me like want to burp? I apologize for that. Great timing. You can do that before I start recording. Yeah, like and subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. And yeah, let's get right into this reaction. Here we go.
Historically, men like Al Capone, El Chapo, and John Gotti are known for leading some of the world's most notorious gangs. But behind their success story are strong-willed women who, against all odds, have proven their worth in the vicious underground criminal world.
Okay, why are you putting Sarah Connor? She's not a wife of a gangster. I understand why. Of all, like, put some mob wives up in here, some clips of them, but Sarah Connor from Terminator? Really? That's the video clip you're going to pull up to throw this together?
Join me in this exciting video as I dig into the archives to reveal what really happened to the wives of famous gangsters. Victoria DiGiorgio Gotti. Born on the 5th of December 1942 in Brooklyn, New York, Victoria DiGiorgio Gotti endured a tumultuous childhood. Her parents were factory workers, and by the time she turned 2, the family had split. While details about her early life and education remain cloaked in mystery, it is believed that Victoria began engaging in petty crimes at a young age. In 1958, she met John Joseph Gotti, a ruthless Italian mobster, at a nightclub. This chance encounter sparked an immediate and passionate romance between both parties. 4 years later, on March 6, 1962, the couple exchanged vows, solidifying their bond. Victoria DiGiorgio was only 20 at the time, but her love for John Gotti had signed her up for a roller coaster experience in the world of criminality. The marriage was very fruitful as they became proud parents of 5 lovely children. But over time, Gotti's excesses were becoming one too many for Victoria. She wasn't too comfortable with her husband's criminal activities and felt betrayed that the Gambino gangster also introduced their first son, John Gotti Jr., into it. In addition to all of this, the family had to deal with the death of their youngest child, Frank Gotti. Frank was only 12 years old when he was killed by a drunk driver while riding a mini bike in March 1980. This unfortunate situation saw Victoria slip into depression, even as she began to entertain suicidal thoughts. Unconfirmed reports also claim that she was confined to her bed for 1 year after Frank's death. But despite her reservations about Gotti's attitude and the emotional trauma she suffered from losing her son, Victoria chose to remain in the marriage with hopes that their turbulent love story would have a happy ending. John Gotti, on the other hand, was more concerned about furthering his career in the crime world. He emerged as the boss of the infamous Gambino family after overthrowing the gang's leader, Paul Castellano, in a violent shootout on December 16, 1985, and after a brief period of calm, Victoria's biggest nightmare ensued. In 1992, a rival gang found some vital evidence against John Gotti and immediately passed on the information to the feds, who wasted no time in apprehending the gangster. Following his arrest, John was charged to court and convicted for multiple charges, including murder, illegal gambling, tax evasion, and racketeering. Eventually, the Gambino boss died while serving life imprisonment without parole, leaving Victoria to shoulder the responsibility of raising 4 children alone.
But let's go back to the whole John Gotti thing. They glossed over how many times he beat raps. They call him the Teflon God for a reason. And he dressed to the T. There was, what was it, page 6? What was it? Whatever, one of the newspaper, like a little article they had. Gotti's Garbs, I think it was the name of the time. And every time he would show up to court, they would like write in this one little what he would wear and put in detail and all that stuff. John Gotti walked around like he was a king. People loved him. Oh my God, you should watch those old videos. Oh, he was smiling. He was just like, people were just like, oh, just women throwing panties. It was crazy. Their babies being thrown over past of them. Oh my God, it was crazy.
Obviously, this was by no means an easy task. I pretty much raised my children alone with Johnny being away for years at a time, so it broke my heart, Victoria told the New York Daily News in 2006. I felt betrayed, the worst betrayal. I would rather have dealt with other women. But nonetheless, Victoria embraced her new role as the mother and father of the family with a sense of duty. She severed all ties with the Gambino gang after the death of her husband in a bid to protect herself and the children from harm's way. In addition, she adopted a quiet lifestyle as she looked to fill the empty void left behind by the former mafia boss. But unfortunately for Victoria, the family's legal troubles did not end with John's demise. Her first son, John Gotti Jr., also had run-ins with the law in 1998 when he was arrested by the authorities for charges related to gambling and extortion. Throughout his time behind bars, Victoria provided unwavering support to her son, standing by his side until he regained his freedom in December of 2009. And since then, she seems to have returned back to her shell. Nowadays, Victoria DiGiorgio Gotti is in her 80s and worth an estimated $2 million. However, the source of her wealth remains veiled in mystery, much like her late husband's illicit activities.
Leave this poor woman alone. Let her have her $2 million. Let her have her $2 million. She's in her 80s. Let her live it up. Good Lord. It's veiled. It was shady deals, I'm sure. Let this poor woman, Social Security. Well, really don't. Oh my God. Oh my God. That terrifies me when I become old. Oh my God. Where are they going? Oh my God.
Maria Licciardi. Nicknamed Picciarella for her petite stature, Maria Licciardi is an iconic figure in the world of gangsters, both within Italy and beyond. Born on March 24, 1951, in the Neapolitan suburb of Italy, Maria was surrounded by a lineage of gangsters beginning from her father, who was a guapo, and her brothers, who held high-ranking positions within the Camarista mob. So it came as no surprise when she entered into marriage with Antonio Tecumi, another influential member of the Camarista clan. But rather than sit in the shadows, Maria Licciardi stormed into the limelight following the arrest of her husband and her two brothers. Without a second thought, she took over as the leader of the Secondigliano alliance. At first, many were skeptical of her ability to lead the activities of the violent gang, especially because she was the first female camarista to become the boss of the Licciardi clan. But Maria dispatched her responsibilities with great professionalism and cruelty. Immediately she assumed office, the diminutive queen forged a formidable alliance with 20 disparate criminal clans, solidifying the strength of the mob. In addition, she introduced several innovations, including some that were against the rules and regulations of the gang. One of the most significant changes implemented by Maria Licciardi was the establishment of a highly profitable prostitution ring, which became a substantial source of revenue for the organization. Maria vetoed the acquisition of young girls from Albanian girls for $2,000 each, with the promise of offering them legitimate jobs. But once they crossed the border into Italy, these vulnerable girls were introduced to drugs and forced into prostitution. Aside from overseeing the prostitution ring, Maria also led several acts of aggression and violence against other mafia gangs and law enforcement agencies. Within a 6-month period between January and July in the year 2000, gang wars involving Maria's group were responsible for at least 53 deaths. And throughout her career in the criminal underworld, she reportedly ordered the association of at least 100 rivals. Maria Licciardi's ascent to power and her subsequent reign marked a turning point in the male-dominated world of organized crime. Under her guidance,
Now that's a boss babe right there. That's a boss babe right there. Wow. Yeah, all these MLM chicks call themselves boss babes. Now this is a true boss babe right here. This is, my God. She's going to gatekeep and gaslight all day long. Come on, let's keep going, girl.
Activities of the mob were well orchestrated and organized so much that detectives sometimes admired her style of leadership. Some described her as a woman of exceptional intelligence with the brains of a ruthless tactician. One would think that operating in the patriarchal badlands of southern Italy would scare Maria Licciardi, but that wasn't the case. In fact, she was unfazed by the opposition put up by her male counterpart, and deservedly, her bravery earned her a fierce reputation as the godmother of the crime world. In 2001, Maria Licciardi's name appeared on a list of the top 30 most wanted fugitives in Italy. That same year, she was arrested and jailed for a number of offenses before she was eventually released in 2009. Since then, she faded into obscurity until recently, in 2021, when she was arrested at the Ciampino airport in Rome while trying to board a flight to visit her daughter and attend some business in Spain. The 71-year-old mobster remained composed during the arrest. She now faces a prison sentence of 12 years and 8 months, marking another chapter in her tumultuous journey in the crime world. May Coughlin.
She might not even make it out. If she's that old, ooh, she might die in prison. When you're getting that up there in years, ooh, woo, oh my God.
Capone. Literally everyone knows Al Capone, the notorious Chicago mobster who pushed liquor through America in the Prohibition era.
Ooh. Now, Al Capone died from syphilis. He went crazy from syphilis. They had penicillin back in the day. Why he didn't take penicillin to get rid of the syphilis is beyond me. Not very smart. And not much of a looker. Little Pillsbury doughboy of a man, I'll tell you that much.
However, very little is said about his wife, May Coughlin Capone, whose significant contributions played a pivotal role in the success of his illicit business empire. Born on April 11, 1897, to an Irish-American family in Brooklyn, New York, May Capone was a disciplined and studious damsel growing up. These exceptional qualities would come in handy during the trying phase of her marriage with Al Capone. Following the death of her father, May dropped out of school to work at a box factory, where she reportedly met the cunning mobster. May was 20 at the time and was from a very religious family. Al Capone, on the other hand, was 18 and a known gangster. However, the blossoming love they had for each other was enough to overshadow societal judgments and the stark differences in their lifestyle. As their love affair continued, May gave birth to their first child, Albert Francis Sonny Capone, out of wedlock. 3 weeks after the birth of Sonny, May and Al Capone officially got married in Brooklyn on the 30th of December, 1918. A few months later, they relocated to the Windy City of Chicago, where Al Capone's notoriety as a mobster would rise. May, however, maintained a low profile, yet found herself unavoidably entangled in controversies due to her husband's sexual excesses and frequent brushes with the law. Despite his profound love for May, Al Capone was involved in a number of extramarital affairs, and during one of his romantic nights out with his mistresses, he contracted syphilis. He unknowingly infected May with the disease, who in turn passed it on to their son. The consequences of this illness manifested in hearing impairments for both father and son, but Capone's health issues were far worse as he suffered a rapid cognitive decline as well. Despite all of this, May never complained. She overlooked Capone's infidelity and took care of him as she has always done. On October 18, 1931, Capone was arrested for tax evasion.
Wait, but hold on.
May never complained. She overlooked Capone.
Holy shit, he was in this movie, Mickey was in this movie. He'd be perfect in a mafia-style movie. Yeah. I just need to see Ian in the background. I almost was looking for Ian. Oh, she's a good actress too. Yeah. Is that Patrick
infidelity
Wilson?
And took care of him.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Shut the hell up here.
But Capone's health
is that Patrick Wilson?
Issues were far worse as he suffered a rapid cognitive decline as well. Despite all of this, May never complained. She overlooked Capone's infidelity and took care of him as she has always done. On October 18, 1931, Capone was arrested for tax evasion, and in a strong show of solidarity, May stood by him. She embarked on frequent travels across several miles to visit the sick mobster in a prison facility in California. She also defended him publicly and constantly advocated for his release. When journalists inquired about Capone's well-being in prison, May responded firmly, shutting out all suggestions that he might not make it out alive. Yes, he is going to get well. He is suffering from dejection and a broken spirit, aggravated by intense nervousness, May said. After serving 8 out of his 11-year prison sentence, Al Capone was released in 1939 for good behavior, and the mob graciously placed him on a weekly salary of $600. However, his health had become worse. The once notorious...
I thought he died in prison. Wait a minute. That one, see, you can't believe these ghost hunting shows. Who was it? Was it Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures that said they went to the prison Alcatraz? Wasn't it Alcatraz? Yeah. And they said he died in that jail cell. Right here it says he got out. Now, wait a minute. Hold on.
This mobster had become a mere shadow of his former self. He was often cited having delusional conversations with deceased friends and relatives. May was forced to assume the role of wife and guardian, fiercely safeguarding Capone from intrusive journalists.
Is that Tom Hardy? Maybe, no, that's Tom Hardy, isn't it? Wait a minute. Who is this motherfucker? No, come on now. Is this Tom Hardy? Al Capone. Capone, 2020. So, yeah, I thought it was Patrick Wilson. It's not Patrick Wilson. Is this who I'm thinking of? Yep, Noel Fisher. Yep. Okay, yeah, this is the same movie. Oh my god! First I thought that was Michael Fassbender. That is definitely not Michael Fassbender. Okay, where are we at here? Damn, which video? I have 50,000 tabs up here. Okay, here you go. Here we go. Shut up. I found it. We're back online here. Okay, here we go.
And investigators who sought to exploit his fragile state to extract new confessions. She also went over and beyond to get the best medical help for Capone, and as a result, the gangster was one of the first patients to receive the groundbreaking penicillin antibiotics, but it was too late. Eventually, Capone succumbed to cardiac arrest on January 25, 1947, leaving May devastated and unable to fully recover from his loss. Reports indicate that she avoided visiting the second floor.
It's time for news about the news. Sling TV has the same news programming you love, starting at $40 a month. It's the
floor of their home, where her husband had passed away until her own demise in a nursing home in Florida on April 16, 1986.
Oh my God, in a nursing home. That's where you died, in a nursing home? Oh, that's my biggest fear. Oh my God. Girl, really? In a nursing home?
Maria Victoria Henao, Pablo Escobar, was a man of multiple personalities. On one side, he was a thorn in the flesh of law enforcement agencies. But on the other hand, he was a sweet gentleman with the guile and lure to charm just about any woman he craved for. But somehow, out of the innumerable number of women at his disposal, a notorious Colombian drug lord decided that the perfect partner for him was an underage girl in the person of Maria Victoria Henao. More surprisingly, Victoria Henao was open to the advances of Pablo Escobar. She was only 13 at the time, but she was certain that the 23-year-old Pablo Escobar was her Prince Charming. He was a fantastic lover, Victoria Henao explained. I was smitten by his desire to assist others and his empathy for their plight. At the tender age of 14, Victoria became pregnant with Escobar's child. Realizing the possible impact of the situation, the drug lord arranged for the baby to be aborted without Victoria's consent. I was in excruciating pain, she said, but I couldn't say anything to anyone. A year later, the couple exchanged vows in a controversial ceremony held at the Santissima Trinidad Church in Palmyra. As anticipated, Victoria's parents and siblings opposed the marriage and opted not to attend the event. Surprisingly, Escobar's family was also absent from the occasion as well. The only relative of the couple that was present on their wedding day was Victoria's grandmother, who accompanied her to the church. My happiness was bittersweet because I was overwhelmed with fear at what would come afterwards, Victoria Henao said, recalling her state of mind after the wedding.
14 years old. Now, she met this man and started dating this man at 13 years old. Was it 20? What did he say? 22, 23, 21? Child, what the?
Disapproval of my parents, my siblings, the entire neighborhood. I had my heart in my throat. Victoria's early married life proved to be quite complex. Balancing her role as a housewife with her education became a thrilling but emotionally draining experience for her. On January 24, 1977, she gave birth to their first child, Juan Pablo Escobar, while still in the 4th year of secondary school. Nevertheless, she managed to complete her education while navigating the challenges of motherhood. Over the years, the family's wealth grew rapidly, enabling Victoria to fulfill her lifelong dream of attending high-end fashion events in France and Italy and purchasing extremely expensive artwork. However, unbeknownst to her, Escobar's vast fortune was built on drug trafficking. He had become the leader of the notorious Medellin cartel, responsible for 80% of all drug consignments shipped into the United States. When Victoria eventually discovered the truth, she found herself with limited options. After all, Pablo Escobar had always been the one calling the shots in their marriage. "I grew up being molded by Pablo to be his wife and the mother of his children, not to question or confront his choices," she'd later admit.
And you didn't see any kind of red flags with this as just common, like your brain kind of, okay.
According to folklore, Victoria's love for Escobar was quite special, but she disliked his involvement in crime, and even more his appetite for keeping several extramarital affairs. "The gossip about his affairs was constant, and I must admit deeply painful for me," she wrote in her book many years later. "I remember I used to cry all night waiting for dawn to come." However, Escobar's criminal dealings soon exceeded the borders of drug trafficking and adultery. Soon, members of the Medellin cartel were assassinating Escobar's political enemies and destroying commercial airplanes. The height of the gang's brutality came on the 30th of April, 1984, when the drug lord ordered the killing of Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, Colombia's Minister of Justice at the time. Victoria vividly recalls that it was on this fateful day that everything fell apart. Following the assassination, the government promptly issued an arrest warrant for Pablo Escobar, intending to extradite him to the United States. The drug lord had to separate from his family and go into hiding. Obviously, Victoria Henao was concerned for her safety and that of her children, but she couldn't imagine a life without the man she had loved and adored since she was 13. By mid-August in the year 1993, it became clear that the end of Escobar's drug empire was fast crumbling, and by Victoria's own admission, death was hovering around the entire family. In September of the same year, Pablo Escobar informed Victoria that she and their 2 children would need to relocate to a safe house under government protection. Tearful kisses and embraces were exchanged during what would be the final meeting between Escobar and his family. "I cried and cried," Victoria wrote in her book many years later. "It was the most agonizing decision I had ever made, leaving the love of my life just as the world was coming down on him." Indeed, the world was closing in on Pablo Escobar. A few weeks after bidding farewell to his family, the Colombian police brought down the drug kingpin on a rooftop in Medellin. While the entire world celebrated Escobar's demise, Victoria and her children were engulfed in profound sadness. However, there was little time to mourn, as even in death, Escobar's illicit activities continued to cast a dark shadow over the family. Faced with an ongoing crackdown against the Medellin cartel, she had no choice but to flee the country. After 2 failed asylum applications to Germany and Mozambique, they found a resting place in Argentina. In an attempt to conceal their identities, the grieving family was compelled to assume new names. Maria Victoria Henao became Victoria Henao Vallejos, or Maria Isabel Santos Caballero. However, their affiliations with Pablo Escobar would eventually get them in trouble with the law. In 1999, Victoria and her son Juan Pablo were arrested for money laundering. After her
Girl, you didn't learn anything from...
release,
Okay,
she ripped into the authorities in a strongly worded interview. "I'm a prisoner in Argentina simply because I'm Colombian," she explained. "They want to showcase Argentina's fight against drug trafficking by putting the ghost of Pablo Escobar on trial." Since then, Victoria Henao and her children have chosen to lead a quiet life away from the prying eyes of the media. However, recently she has emerged from her self-induced seclusion to release her book, Mrs. Escobar, My Life with Pablo, in which she recounts her experiences of living day in and day out with one of the world's most notorious kingpins. During a 2018 interview with Colombia's W Radio, Victoria absolved herself from the activities of the cartel and openly expressed immense sadness and shame for the enormous pain her husband caused the entire country of Colombia. "I ask for forgiveness for what I did in my youth," Victoria Henao said. "I wasn't having a good life." Maria Elvira Murillo, power and influence within...
I stand there right.
And caused the entire country of Colombia. "I ask for forgiveness for what I did in my youth," Victoria Henao said. "I wasn't having a good life."
Okay, so I didn't. That's something I didn't know. Wow. Well, at least that. Hopefully, that book deal will give her some little bit of money to pay for some rent.
Maria Elvira Murillo. Across
Elvira,
the streets
huh?
and creeks of Mexico, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo is known as the godfather of drug trafficking and co-founder of the Guadalajara cartel. He wielded so much power and influence within Mexico's underground criminal world and members of the country's political class. But behind the scenes, he relied on the women in his life to provide the emotional support he needed to run the cartel. After his first wife died of leukemia in 1968, Felix Gallardo returned to the dating pool in search of love, and it was there he found Maria Elvira Murillo. Hailing from a humble farming family in Michoacan, Mexico, Maria Elvira had grown up in poverty. However, her life and that of her family were transformed when she crossed paths with Felix Gallardo. Not much is known about the circumstances of their meeting or the methods employed by Felix Gallardo to win her over. Nevertheless, it is believed that their wedding witnessed a grand appearance by the governor of Sinaloa. Reportedly, Maria Elvira bore 17 children for the drug lord and was listed as one of the co-owners of the renowned Delia Real Estate.
Wait a minute, did I hear that correctly?
Witnessed a grand appearance by the governor of Sinaloa. Reportedly, Maria Elvira bore 17 children for.
Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. You were pregnant for 17 years, basically. 17. Please tell me some of those were like duplicates and triplicates. I mean, dear Jesus, my kitty would be like that whole hot dog in a tunnel type of, in a hallway type of meme. Oh my god, like 17. Okay. Wow.
For the drug lord and was listed as one of the co-owners of the renowned Delia Real Estate. In the second season of the popular Netflix series Narcos Mexico, Maria Elvira was depicted as a loving wife who initially supported her husband's small-scale drug dealings. But over time, she became concerned that her husband was spending too much time running the business. His extramarital affairs didn't help matters as well.
They always do. That's always it's the same old time. Any kind of gangsters, mob, those guys always cheat. They're never faithful. They always have, what do they call them in Italian? Gamods. I think that's what they call the side chick.
As the series unfolded, Maria Elvira passionately pleaded with her husband to move the cartel's operations to Sinaloa. However, when he refused, she found herself with no other option but to relocate to Sinaloa with their children. Eventually, Felix Gallardo had a change of heart after surviving an assassination attempt. He fled to Sinaloa, hoping to reunite with his family. Initially, Maria Elvira didn't seem to be interested in a reunion, but she eventually gave in after the 1988 elections, which Felix...
I thought she said after 19 times he tried, she finally gave up. She's like, okay, I'll see your ass. Oh, 1988 elections. Okay.
Gallardo rigged in favor of the PRI. They attended the victory party together, but their relationship would turn sour again. After learning of her ex-husband's role in the death of Guadalupe Lea Serrano and her 2 children, Maria Elvira confronted Felix Gallardo. In this violent and emotional scene, Gallardo tried to calm his wife, but just as he...
In this scene, because this is shameless, by the way, sir. If you're showing it, unless you forgot what clip you're throwing in here, this is not the scene between. This is shameless. Just saying.
He was about to explain his side of the story, she plunged a knife through his chest. It was by a stroke of luck that he escaped alive and relocated back to Guadalajara.
She stabbed his ass. She's like, I'm not going to hear none of this nonsense. You're not going to gaslight me, sir.
Certainly not the happy ending that many viewers would have hoped for. Their relationship in real life didn't have a happy ending either, but it was much different from what the Narcos Mexico series made it seem like. To start with, there are no concrete reports of Maria Elvira complaining about Felix Gallardo's staunch dedication to the cartel or his escapades with other women. And despite being less famous than her husband, Maria Elvira reportedly played an active role in the success of the Guadalajara cartel before and even after his arrest. In the early days of their marriage, her Her primary role was to monitor and regulate the inflow and outflow of cash, but over time, she took on more responsibilities, including facilitating high-level meetings between Felix Gallardo and some of the biggest names in Mexico's political class. This helped to strengthen the cartel's position as the biggest gang in the country and ultimately kept the family safe from the wrath of the law. Eventually, they ran out of luck in the early 80s when top DEA agent Enrique Kiki Camarena infiltrated the Guadalajara cartel. But it was in 1985 that their whole world came crashing down.
It's always in the 80s. You know, it's always the time. The 80s, they were coming down in the 80s. A lot of them were going down in the 80s. The feds were fed up after decade and decade and decade of all these people just running amok and with all the shenanigans and foolishness going on. In the 80s, I noticed there was a trend. They were up on their game and on their necks with all these gangs and all that. Oh my God.
After uncovering Kiki's true identity, Felix Gallardo ordered his hitmen to assassinate the DEA agent in the most brutal way possible. So they kidnapped and tortured him to death with the hope that it would deter rival gangs and law enforcement agencies from messing with the cartel. But that was not the case. Kiki's murder prompted a vicious manhunt operation to apprehend Felix Gallardo. After a few years of hide and seek, the drug lord was arrested and extradited to the United States, leaving Maria Elvira Murillo to cater to herself and 17 children. As if that wasn't enough, the government took possession of her real estate properties. Nonetheless, Maria Elvira, being astute, managed to secure a portion of her husband's wealth, which enabled her to provide for her children. Even in the midst of these trials, Maria Elvira never stopped loving Felix Gallardo. Amid reports of her husband's declining health in prison, Maria Elvira and her children penned a letter of complaint to the Public Safety Secretary, Genaro Garcia Luna, highlighting their concerns.
They got 18 letters altogether from every member of that family
About the alleged mistreatment of the drug lord by prison authorities. The letter also expressed their dissatisfaction with the inadequate level of medical care he was receiving. Furthermore, they initiated an appeal process in court, requesting that Felix Gallardo be permitted to serve the remainder of his sentence under house arrest. Regrettably, the court dismissed their appeal, but subsequently Felix Gallardo was relocated to a medium-security prison in Guadalajara. Emma Coronel Espuro. When you think of the most influential wives of gangsters in history, it is impossible to overlook Emma Coronel Espuro. Not only does her love story with El Chapo guarantee her a place on such a list, but Emma's own endeavors while her husband was incarcerated further solidify her status. Born on July 3, 1989 in California, Emma Coronel Espuro, the same year that El Chapo broke away from the Guadalajara cartel to establish the Sinaloa cartel. Her father, Inés Coronel Barreras, held a high-ranking position within the gang and was one of El Chapo's most trusted lieutenants, according to reports. Emma studied journalism in Culiacan, but as she grew older, she started to enroll in different beauty contests. One of them was the 2007 edition of the Coffee and Guava Festival beauty pageant in Durango. To mark his daughter's participation, Inés Coronel threw an extravagant party and extended an invitation to his boss and other dignitaries. El Chapo's arrival turned out to be one of the biggest highlights. The drug lord rolled into town in a small chartered plane, and his motorcade to the event consisted of at least 200 scooters driven by armed members of the Sinaloa cartel. Being his usual lousy self, El Chapo's entourage also included some of his mistresses, but once he set his eyes on Emma, he was immediately captivated. Her beauty. During a later interview with Telemundo, Emma Coronel recalls her first meeting with the cartel boss. "We crossed paths right at the center of the dance floor," she said. "He flirtatiously smiled at me. After a while, a person came to me and said the boss is asking if you want to dance with him, and I said okay." Emma Coronel had a boyfriend at the time, but he became irrelevant as soon as she had her first dance with El Chapo.
Forget about the boyfriend, but forget about the mistresses. This is how they hooked up with each other. That's fabulous. My God. Maybe her boyfriend hooked up with the mistresses, so that way everyone was able to have fun that night.
This was the beginning of her life as the queen of the Sinaloa cartel. Emma was one of the favorites to emerge as winner of the contest. However, El Chapo wasn't ready to take chances. He knew quite well he was going to marry, but he wanted her to attend the wedding as a beauty queen. So he went over and beyond to compromise the judges to favor her, and a few days later, she was announced as the winner. However, the beauty queen insists she won without external help, and her love for the drug syndicate was born out of pure feelings. "I would say what won me over was his way of talking. the way he treated me, the way we began to get along. First as friends, and from that came everything else, she told Los Angeles Times in a 2016 interview.
She's a beautiful girl. She's a beautiful woman.
The months following her contest, Emma got married to El Chapo on her 18th birthday in the presence of dignitaries, including the governor of Sinaloa. In 2011, Emma gave birth to a set of twins at the Antelope.
If he said about 23, 30 babies, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, never heard of a fucking condom. Okay, twins. Okay, this is a little bit more normal.
Valley Hospital in California. 3 years later, El Chapo was arrested in a smooth operation by the Mexican Marines. The event came as a real shock to Emma Coronel, but she got her emotions together and went on a daring mission to release her husband from jail. Before now, El Chapo had successfully escaped jail in 2001, but the authorities were unwilling to connive with him this time. So, Emma devised an alternate plan. She arranged a meeting with El Chapo's 4 sons and Damaso Lopez, a former prison official, and they agreed to move El Chapo out of prison through an underground tunnel. So she bought a piece of land around the prison and other necessary amenities, including drilling equipment, an armored pickup truck, and a motorcycle. She also rented a massive warehouse and a small airplane. After weeks of intense planning, El Chapo escaped prison through an underground tunnel on July 11, 2015. The entire world was...
She bought land, and then she got like, you got some contractors, and you're like, okay, look, I'll slip you a couple C notes if you could start making a tunnel over there. There's a prison over there. Yeah, just don't worry about that. Just over there. Just have it right. Just don't have to say here's an extra C note. Is that how that went down on a Tuesday afternoon? What? That's bought land right near the prison. I mean, that's you. She did the damn thing. I would never think about that in a million years. Thinking outside the box, girl.
Was left in awe by this exploit. Many tabloids hailed him as a master tactician, but his James Bond stunt would not have been possible without the help of Emma. Unfortunately, their reunion...
She has not only beauty, but brains. Wow.
...was short-lived as El Chapo was rearrested on the 8th of January 2016 and put under strict surveillance. Stunt would not have been possible without the help of Emma. Unfortunately, their reunion was short-lived as El Chapo was rearrested on the 8th of January 2016 and put under strict surveillance. Expectedly, Emma wasn't too happy with El Chapo's living conditions in prison. Not everything that is said is true. I think that any human being has the right to have at least the vital things. They are not providing this to him, I know, Emma said during a conversation with journalists. However, before Emma could conjure another escape plan for her husband, the authorities extradited him to the United States. But Emma wasn't ready to forsake the love of her life. She was regularly jostling between Mexico and the United States to attend El Chapo's trials. "I'm in love with El Chapo," the former beauty queen said. "He's the father of my daughters, and I believe that I have already demonstrated that I will follow him anywhere." She showed public support for her husband and defended him at every opportunity she got. And despite all the charges leveled against El Chapo, she insists that the drug syndicate is not violent. In April 2019, when El Chapo was sentenced to life imprisonment and 30 years, Emma Coronel was in court blowing him kisses. Later that year, she launched a fashion brand in honor of El Chapo. Her support for the diminutive drug lord remained deviant. However, the beauty queen would go to experience tribulations of her own. During El Chapo's reign as cartel boss, Emma is believed to have played a significant role in the success of his empire, and her actions would come back to haunt her in 2021, when she was arrested in Washington for drug trafficking and money laundering activities. On the 30th of May, 2023, she was transferred from the FMC Carswell in Texas to a confinement facility operated by Long Beach Residential Reentry Management in California. In your opinion, which of these women played the most significant role in the business of their husbands? Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, click on any of the cards on your screen to watch more insightful videos like this one.
Wow. Jesus. Well, I'd give it to her on that. These were all like boss babes right here, I'll tell you that much. But getting land right near the prison and get all that done. You know, when I say pause, I mean pause. Not just pause the commercial and then go to the next video. When I say pause, I say pause. Anyway, yelling at my monitor. That's wild. Yeah, she's not living at the Four Seasons right now, is she? Yeah, that's a pretty stressful life, you know. And Jesus Christ, Escobar, 13 years old. I don't know. Anyway, how did you like this video? I thought it was really interesting, and these chicks were very interesting backstory how they all came up, and the video was well done. I really enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments down below if you want me to react to more of this. Of course, if you want me to react to anything you want me to react to, put the link down below so I could see it, and put in the words "can you react to" or something like that. That way I could narrow it down in the comments, so I could, like, usually I'll type in react, and whoever puts in react, that will all pull up. So just a little heads up there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and love, peace, and grease. Bye.